Cheers, everybody. This is Dan Tarker, as you well know, because we have been going to school together for about 2 years now. And so I want to welcome you to my presentation on educational research, our first posting for AHE 614. Yeah, here's some of my research ramblings for you today. And I'll try to keep this brief because I know we're only supposed to stay up here for about 3 minutes, right? So here you go. I think. All right, there we go. So entering through the epistemological door. Yeah, that's how I'm going to enter through the epistemological door. Um, it suddenly sounds more dirty than I intended it to be when I wrote this. Um, but the question is, how do we know reality? How do we know reality? I don't know. I mean, that is the ultimate question, and I really don't know how we know reality anymore. I look at TV, I look at the radio, I listen to podcasts, and I go, what the hell is going on? And how does anybody who's saying anything know what they're saying is true? And that's really what the big epistemological question is, right? How do we know the world? How do we know? And so that to me is the ultimate question for educational research. We think we know. Lots of people go around talking about things they think they know, but how do they know them for sure? And because they don't, unless they do some actual real research and engage in some study around it. Uh, and unfortunately, I think more and more we see on the from the news broadcasts and just talking to people and engaging with people on Facebook and social media that we increasingly do live in a post-truthful world where people really base everything on their beliefs. And to me, the what is truth is a good working definition for truth for me is it is a combination of both your beliefs and empirical evidence from the outside world, facts. And you have to bring the facts and your beliefs together to create truth. And the reason I say that is because human beings are really the only things, the only entities in the world that we know of that really care about truth. Animals don't care about truth. They care about food. They care about what's right in front of them. Rocks don't care. Your car doesn't care. The tie you're wearing doesn't care. The only thing that cares is the other human beings, for the most part. If they're cognizant enough to really understand the nuances of the question, they really do care about what truth is. And but most of the time we go around saying, "Well, I want the truth," without even knowing what that really means. So for me, what truth means is that conscious aspect, that consciousness aspect, because that's one thing human beings bring to the table is the consciousness and the self-awareness that there is this thing called truth. And I have certain beliefs about the world and how it operates that I'm also bringing to the table. In addition to that, you also have the facts of the outside world, that are measurable, that will either conform, and the measurement will either conform to your interpretation of reality, or it will not. And that is, so it's that coming together of belief and facts that create truth. Um, and so that's why it makes research like this is important. That's why research like this is important, because how else do we know how the world really works unless we have a methodology to take data, to collect data, and to measure it in order to interpret the world in which we live. Because often reality does not conform to our beliefs. And that really brings us to the scientific method, and that's ultimately what brought us out of the Dark Ages into the Enlightenment. And I see to my horror, and I think to probably the horror of a lot of people in this class, that um, we live in a world that is increasingly turning away from Enlightenment values like the scientific method, and trusting that the scientific method, while not giving us a unequivocal answer to reality, gives us a way to start groping toward an understanding of reality um, that might not be always fixed. It might be ever changing as new information and corrective information is found that might change our interpretation of reality. But it is a mindset. It's a way of looking at the world um, that helps you understand it, and gives you gives people a more solid set of tools for interpreting reality. So that's why it's important to me. And so I'm going to apply this, what I just said, to a couple scenarios that Tanisha provided for us. First one, I found these kind of a little bit ambiguous, so both of my responses to each scenario are very similar. So I wasn't sure how many blanks to fill in with these. So scenario one is establishing a program for a diverse population. Uh, so I guess with all of these, the first thing is to come up with a actionable research question or hypothesis, making sure you identify the independent and dependent variables that you're going to be measuring for your research study. And I guess within the context of establishing a diverse population, you're going to be looking at what are those independent variables that help students in a diverse population blossom, right, in an academic setting. And that would, of course, will require research into the literature, to see what research has already been done around that area. And we know from our classes so far that there's quite a bit of that research that has already been done, including, why it's important to make students from diverse backgrounds feel welcome, why it's important to make sure that they can see themselves within the institution, and things of that nature. So identifying all those dependent variables, making sure you identify how the subjects are recruited for any study that you're going to be doing, especially since this population and the one we're talking about in the next scenario are both populations that come from challenging backgrounds, right? And so making sure that you're following ethical issues, that there are no ethical issues around what you're doing as well, and that you're being ethical. So let's all be ethical. And describing your methods, what are you doing to collect the data and recruit people, and what kind of study are you doing? What's the protocol? What's the order of the procedures that you're going to be doing? What are any assumptions that are what are the assumptions that are underneath the study that you're doing? How are you measuring things? How are you analyzing the data? And ultimately, most importantly, what are the generalizable results that could come out of a study like this? The same holds true for working with developing a program for students with disabilities, right? Or in this case, understanding placement and outcomes for them. And so the dependent variables and independent variables that would go into a research question would, of course, deal with what are those dependent variables that would influence, what are those independent variables, rather, that would influence how a student with a disability gets placed, and any learning outcomes that they receive based on their placement or their past performance, or other independent variables that might influence their success, which would also be another dependent variable. So all the independent variables and dependent variables would need to be defined once again for this type of study. And again, I can't emphasize the ethics around subject recruitment, and especially since this is a marginalized group of students often, so the ethics questions will definitely need to be attended to. And again, everything else is basically the same as the previous slide. looking at the protocols, assumptions, and methods and data analysis, and what generalizable results can you pull from this study. So that's basically it for the answer to this research question, this question to start this research methodologies class. I will say, yeah, I think for me the current state of the world and our affairs really does tie into a lot of what we're doing this quarter or within our dissertations period. Because I think our academic studies are an extension of Enlightenment thought. They are embodied by the scientific method and what that which is really a tool for thinking about the world and a way of approaching, analyzing, and interpreting the world, and to get in, and I think one of the most important things to take away is that it's never going to give us an absolute answer to what reality is. It's going to give us a framework for being able to discuss reality through statistics, through language, and grope toward a better understanding of reality, with the knowledge that reality continues to change as we get new information. And I think that is actually the key and the most important part, is that the importance of getting corrective information and letting our understanding and our understanding of reality continue to evolve. So thanks. I hope you enjoyed this. I think I went over, but oh well. Take care, everybody. Bye.